If you're someone who can operate under immense stress and pressure, solve complex problems, and get a lot done, this video may be especially important for you. Because what looks like productivity and efficiency on the outside can quietly lead to burnout on the inside, depending on the fuel you're using and how long you go. Here's something that I've seen after working with thousands of leaders over the past decade. Most leaders today are operating in a high stress, high stakes environment for years at a time without any sort of break or rest. You know those hyper-focused states, right? Where your adrenaline is coursing through your veins, you're operating on caffeine, maybe nicotine, you're getting a lot done. You could solve incredibly complex challenges. But when it becomes your default operating system, it starts to take a real toll on your body and your nervous system. You see, when you're living in a constant state of pressure and urgency, your brain spends a lot of time in the brainwave state called high beta. This is the state that's associated with focus and alertness, where you're really present to your 3D reality. And in the short term, it's incredibly useful. But in the long term, it can be very problematic and can ultimately lead to burnout because it signals stress hormones in the body that tell your nervous system to stay in fight or flight. It's literally telling your body there may be a tiger chasing us, so keep running, keep your mind sharp and your legs strong. So ways that this can show up in your life and has shown up in my life is struggling to give full presence to your spouse or your kids when you're at home because your mind never is able to shut off from work and it's just in constant go mode. Or maybe you have a hard time asking deeper, more purposeful questions around what it is that you want because you're so obsessed and in execution mode that it's hard to take a step back and see the bigger picture. In some cases, it could even show up as stress-induced diagnoses or ultimately burnout. And so what our body does in these states is it looks for relief. So whether that's a drink or overeating, for me, when I'm not careful, it's scrolling. Anything that can just slow down that internal pace long enough so that it doesn't feel so uncomfortable. And here's the really tricky part, is that the world oftentimes claps for entrepreneurs' ways of coping, where we overwork, overcommit, push through. I know because I've lived it. And if this operating system feels uncomfortably familiar, stay with me because we're gonna go map out a game plan of how to get through it. By the way, my name is Jennifer Hudye Moscow. I built 3 7-figure businesses before the age of 30. I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs and leaders over the past decade. And my work now focuses on helping entrepreneurs design a life and a business that actually pulls them forward, not just one that looks successful on paper. And I've personally experienced burnout multiple times. I ain't proud of it. And I've also supported many of my high-performing clients through burnout into recovery. And so what I'm sharing comes from both lived experience, pattern recognition, and years of working with leaders that are paid to operate under high pressure and high stress. And before I share a tool that can begin your journey in helping you regulate this, I want to walk you through 3 clear signs that you've likely hit burnout and it's time to seek support. The first place to look is where it shows up physically. Burnout oftentimes shows up in the body first. It can look like chronic fatigue, where no amount of sleep actually helps, or sleep issues, whether you're sleeping too much or barely at all because you have this buzzy, irritating feeling. Also changes in appetite or cravings for junk food, headaches, stomach issues, or unexplained aches and pains in your body. It's important to note that these are kind of like signals on a car. If your engine light turns on, it's letting you know, hey, there's something behind the scenes that we need to look at, and these physical symptoms are just the same. The second sign to look at is emotional and mental. So feeling constantly drained and overwhelmed, like you're barely keeping up. You're cynical or detached from work or life, or you're constantly doubting yourself. You're feeling less competent. You're dropping balls on commitments that you know that you have the capability to do, or you have so much difficulty being able to concentrate on super simple tasks that suddenly take you way more time. This is where I've noticed high performers start blaming themselves instead of looking at their nervous system and looking at their body and just getting curious of like, wow, something's off with me. But instead of saying something's wrong with me, it's getting really curious of the signs and signals that your body, your emotions, your mindset is telling you. The third sign that shows up is in your behavior. So if you notice yourself pulling away from friends and activities that you once enjoyed, kind of isolating yourself, being way more short-tempered or irritable, or taking frustration out on people that you care about, or maybe you're constantly procrastinating on responsibilities that never used to be an issue, and you're turning to coping mechanisms that you're just trying to find, getting the edge off, but it's not good for you now nor good for you later. If you're nodding yes to any of these, it may not be a motivation problem, and that's usually the first place that high performers look. It may be a nervous system problem where your body is burnt out and is exhausted. So there was a time where I had a lot of responsibility on my plate, my business, my life, had a lot of travel going on in business, and I started noticing it with my sleep. I was needing way more sleep than normal, and even on the nights or the weekends when I would get 10 hours of sleep, I would still wake up feeling so groggy and so exhausted. And throughout my work days, I felt this buzzy, uncomfortable feeling in my body. I would be on team meetings, and anytime anyone would present new ideas outside of what we were already doing, I would feel so overwhelmed. My body would just go into this contraction because there was almost an aspect where I'm like, how am I going to find time to do this? I don't have any energy for this. I'm already feeling behind. I noticed that I was starting to cancel friends gatherings or spending quality time with friends because I was constantly just trying to play catch up in my business and try to get enough rest. But no amount of rest was actually catching me up and getting me my energy back. For me, one of the first things I did is I found a functional medicine doctor to look at and get some labs done. And I saw that my adrenals were pretty much shot. And there was some weird things going on with my hormones, which they said is oftentimes a cause of just running in that high beta state for so long, that fight or flight, that eventually the body kind of starts to shut down because it's exhausted. And my mind was overpowering my body. One of the important things to note is with burnout, you can't just snap your fingers and you decide to get enough rest over the weekend and you feel better. It oftentimes, what I've noticed for myself and some of my clients, my friends, is oftentimes it's a several month journey. It's kind of like if you're winding up a rope really tight over months and months, it's not just going to snap back. Normally, it's going to take time. And so you really got to commit to the process. And the way that I always look at it is the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's like a triangle where the physical is actually the last place that the symptoms show up, but it's also looking at, okay, psychologically, emotionally, where am I at? What's showing up? And then also spiritually, what is this teaching me? Because I really believe one of my mentors, Mary Morrissey, says the content of our life is the curriculum to our evolution. So whatever is showing up for us, even if it's showing up in physical symptoms, there's some sort of wisdom lesson there that wants to really transform into higher order. And so for me, it looked like that was the beginning of the journey of me not mastering my calendar, being much more comfortable with boundaries and discernment of what I said yes to and what I said no to when it came to opportunities. It also was the beginning of me expanding and healing aspects of my nervous system to, instead of just feeling like there was too much on my plate, growing a bigger plate. And what that looked like is being able to emotionally hold more. But it had to start with me really beginning the path of it being a journey and it not being a one quick fix. Okay, so the plan. Now, to be clear, I am no doctor, nor do I pretend to be one on the internet. If this is you and you're struggling with burnout, there's a couple things just to look at that really matter. First is to remember that there is a very real physical component to burnout. And so possibly checking out functional medicine doctor, getting some blood work done, checking on things like your hormones and your adrenal health, and realizing that this isn't just about pushing harder and harder and harder, but really looking under the hood of your vehicle and seeing where things currently at right now so you can get some more nutrients to help you there. And the second one that is critical that a lot of entrepreneurs either miss or avoid is getting help with your nervous system and learning how to regulate your nervous system to come out of fight or flight. This can include things that I've done in the past: acupuncture, massage, meditation, breath work, time in nature, real rest. And if you have a Ferrari engine of a mind, you oftentimes don't need more discipline. You need need to learn how to regulate yourself and regulate your nervous system even better. My husband and I are both entrepreneurs, and years ago, we wanted to create a tool that we could use on a daily basis for ourselves, because we're those entrepreneurs with the Ferrari engine of mind that's hard to slow down. And so we created something called Vision Amplifier Breathwork. And it's a combination of diaphragmatic breathwork and guided visualization that's grounded in science and supported by research to help you begin to reduce stress, help regulate your nervous system, and access higher clarity and flow states. I oftentimes describe it as a high performance meditation for people who don't like to meditate or who can't sit still long enough to meditate. And it really helps your body begin to shift out of fight or flight and into a more regulated, relaxed state, especially for that person with a powerful brain where you can't just sit and meditate because that would feel more uncomfortable than it would do you good. And so if you want to check that out, we have 2 free tracks that you can go grab, a morning and an evening track, completely free. If you just go to vaedailydose.com, you can get those tracks. Whether or not you decide to, please hear this. Getting support when it comes to burnout is not a step backward. The best, most powerful leaders that know how to play the long game show up and not just take care of their mind, but they take care of their body. And so if you found this video helpful, forward it to someone who may be struggling with this, or like or subscribe to this channel to get more content like this. We're just getting started, and every like, every comment, every subscribe literally means the world to helping us share this content in an even bigger way. So I will see you on the next video.